video supports the first lesson for the week of May 11th in the BCPS Secondary Reading Curriculum. The title of this lesson is Read, Think, React. I'm Nancy Perkins, a resource teacher in both the Offices of Secondary ELA and Title I. You may or may not be aware, but this coming summer the Olympic Games were supposed to be held in Tokyo, Japan. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus outbreak, these games are being delayed for a year. However, they will still occur in July 2021. Many of the plans that were made for these games will still happen just a year later than the organizers originally thought. In terms of the plans for these games, the organizers have kept sustainability in the forefront of their thinking. This means that they have considered ways to make things as environmentally friendly as possible. Some of their ideas? Well, to name a few, the Olympic torch is being made from recycled aluminum that came from a temporary housing facility that was built after an earthquake in Japan. The uniforms that the torchbearers will wear are made partly from recycled bottles. The podiums that the medal winners will stand on are made from recycled plastic also. The wood being used to build the Olympic Village where the athletes will stay will be redistributed to the communities after the games to make things like park benches and parts of school buildings. There are other features of the Olympic events in Japan that are unique and will make these games different from those that have been hosted in other countries in the past. In the reading lessons this week, you will imagine that you have been given the task to research some things that will make the Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan unique and different. When conducting research, good readers know they have to use certain skills in order to locate and gather information that will be useful to them. For one, they will need to use their skills in note-taking and paraphrasing information. As you know, you can't simply copy word for word or cut and paste the words of another person and claim that they are your own. Besides being plagiarism, this is also an inefficient way to gather information. It is much quicker to take information and put it into your own words that may be more brief than what's in the text. Also, if you can successfully paraphrase information, then you know that you have understood it because you can explain it in your own words. Research also requires the skill of determining the information that should be gathered in order to answer the research question. Not all information presented in a text is important and relevant for a particular research topic. Finally, good readers are always paying attention to the thoughts they are having in connection with the text that they are reading. These are all of the skills that you will be practicing in the lessons for this week. To get started on reading and gathering information, have the article Japan Prepares for Olympics with Recycled Metal Medals, as well as the notes thinking chart for this lesson in front of you. Follow along with this model of reading the first portion of this article and observe the annotation and information locating process. For the next two lessons, you are going to imagine that you've been given the assignment by a teacher to do some research to find out what is going to make the Tokyo Olympics unique and different from all the other Olympics, besides the fact that they've been postponed for a year due to the coronavirus outbreak. But what is it that's going to make these Olympics special? So you're going to imagine that you have found the two articles that you're going to be provided to read in the next two lessons, and your job is going to be to read the information to consider what is it that you would include in a report on that topic, and how would you paraphrase the information that you found. So I want you, before we begin reading, to take a look at the article because it's a little bit different. The lines have been numbered for you because when you complete your thinking notes chart, you're going to be asked to give line references for some of the information that you want to capture and that you want to paraphrase. So that's why the numbers are there in the text. It's for your convenience. Okay. Now we're going to begin reading this article. Just a little note here, we're going to read it one time through. to look for just personal thoughts and reactions, questions, that kind of thing. And I'm going to highlight and comment on those items with purple. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread what I've read, and I'm going to look for that information that I want to capture for my report. Information on details about what it is about this Olympics that is unique and different. So the title of this article, Japan Prepares for Olympics with Recycled Metal Medals. Now, before we go any further, I want you to notice the two metal words, because this will be very confusing if you don't understand the difference in the two. This first metal with a T in the middle refers to the materials, metals, things like tin and aluminum, and in this case gold, silver, bronze, like the actual material. So you could remember the T in the middle, maybe think of tin, okay, because it's the actual material. Then metal with the D in the middle is this kind of metal, like what you would get as an award. So you could maybe think D decoration that you would hang around your neck. Okay, so I don't want you to get confused between the two metals. Okay, but right here we found information on what makes the Tokyo Uniques special and different. Japan prepares for Olympics with recycled medals. Okay, I'm going to read the first time, looking just for my personal thoughts and reactions. So the caption, the silver, gold, and bronze medals are unveiled in the Tokyo 2020 Medal Design Unveiling Ceremony on July 24th, 2019 in Tokyo, Japan. Japan's electronic trash is being turned into treasure. At the Tokyo Olympics next summer, all of the medals will be made from recycled metals. And I'm going to capture that and make it purple for, remember, my personal reaction. And I'm going to come up here. You know, I'm working on a Word document this time, and I'm going to insert my comments. And I think that's so cool. So good for the environment to use recycled materials. Okay. 5,000 medals will be awarded at the Games and Paralympics. And right away I'm going to capture that because I had no idea that that's how many medals they need for the Olympics. And my comment is just going to be, wow, that's a lot of medals. Okay. So 5,000 medals will be awarded at the Games and Paralympics. Paralympics are the games for physically disabled athletes. They, meaning the medals, have all been crafted entirely from recycled consumer devices. They are designed to resemble polished stones. And I'm just going to capture here the thought that I would imagine if they look like polished stones, that they are very pretty. Organizers say they are the first medals in Olympic history to be made from recycled metals. The people of Japan took part. The move toward recycling has been underway for some time. Medals at the 2016 Games contained recycled material. The silver and bronze medals were made from 30% recycled materials. A small fraction of the 2010 medals were made of recycled circuit boards. The 2020 medals represent the contributions of Japanese citizens. They are the result of a crowdsourcing project. It began more than 2 years ago. People were asked to recycle their cell phones and small devices and appliances. And this is making me think, wait a minute, our cell phones have gold, bronze, and silver in them? You know, how did they make these metals from recycled cell phones? Who knew? A project that allows the people of Japan to take part in creating the medals is really good, said Koji Murafushi. Murafushi is the Tokyo 2020 sports director. There's a limit on the resources of our Earth, he said. Recycling these things will make us think about the environment. Okay, I'm going to stop here. This is the first page of the article. You, when you take over, will read the next 2 sections. It's not a very long article. And remember to first capture your thinking. Now I'm going to go back through, and what I want to think about is what information would I want to include in a report that I'm going to write about what makes these Olympics special. So I already know that one of the things is these recycled medals. So I'm going to look for what are some of the details about those medals that I would want to include in my report. So I'm going to go back through and just kind of skim. 5,000. Okay, this right here, they have all been crafted entirely from recycled consumer devices, and they're designed to resemble polished stones, and they're the first metals like this in history. I think all of this is really good detail that I would want to include in my report. But I know I'm not going to copy this word for word. I'm going to paraphrase and put it in my own words, but I'll get to that when I get to the chart. I just right now want to capture this is information I want to use. Okay, continuing on and skimming. This paragraph right here just gives me information on previous Olympics, so I don't want that. This paragraph tells me about how the Japanese citizens contributed their old cell phones and devices, and I think that is great information to include in my report about these medals. So I'm going to capture that. Oops. And remember I was using blue for that. Now also notice that I just changed the color of one of my reactions comments. It's okay because I've captured the comment over here. And this is just giving me a quote that relates to the people of Japan contributing to the devices, or to the medals rather. Okay, so when I look back just in that first section, I have these 3 lines here of information that I want to use and these 3 lines here. You'll see those lines appear again when we take a look at the thinking notes chart. Okay, so your job again, finish reading the article and first capture your thinking, and then go back and highlight what are some of those details about these medals that you would want to include in your report, because part of your report is going to be, well, the medals are unique and different. So you want the information on the details that will support that. Okay, and I'll talk to you in a little bit about how we're going to capture that on our notes thinking chart. Now watch this example of completing the notes thinking chart. This is the notes thinking chart that you will be completing once you finish reading and annotating the article. Let's take a look at how it is set up. The first column is where you will list the line numbers of the information that you found in the article that you decided would be good details to include in a report about these unique medals. The middle column is where you will then take that information and write a paraphrase of it, or that means put it into your own words. The third column is where you will record some of the thinking that you were doing while you were reading. To complete this column, you simply have to go back to the text and grab the comments that you were recording and write them here. As you can see, that's what I did. I simply just went back to the text and grabbed the comments that I made while I was reading and wrote them here in this column. My suggestion for you is that you complete this column first because it's an easy thing to do. Just go back to the text and find what you were thinking and write it here on this list. So now going back to the first column, you'll see that I wrote lines 4 to 6 as the examples of the first details that I wanted to capture while I was reading, the information that I thought was important. So now if we go back to the text and just remind ourselves, lines 4 through 6 were here, these first blue lines. 3 sentences, they've all been crafted entirely from recycled consumer devices. They're designed to resemble polished stones. Organizers say they're the first medals in Olympic history to be made from recycled materials. So there are 3 sentences there in the text. So when I went to my paraphrase section, I didn't want to write all 3 sentences, so I just captured that information, put it into one sentence. For the first time ever, the medals for the Tokyo Summer Games are made from all recycled electronic materials, and they look like shiny stones. So you can see it's the same information, it's just written shorter and put into my own words. So now your job is to continue completing the chart by capturing the information that you highlighted and annotated while you're reading. I've given you a little jump start by giving you this thought that the next lines you paraphrase should be lines 10 through 12. And if we just jump back to the article real quick, I'll remind you that that's these lines that I had highlighted when I was reading as important details. So you want to go back and take a look at those sentences and think, how would you put those into your own words? And start there. put that paraphrase of your information there on the chart. And then just finish with what other information did you find that when you were reading that you decided was important to capture. And then when you're finished, be sure to submit your completed chart to your teacher for feedback. And then you can feel good knowing that you've practiced some of the skills needed for good researching and good report writing.